Hello.
I am so excited that I made two people read the shittiest book.
Let's tell the people who we are, y'all.
Yeah. I'm Haley.
I'm Lori.
I'm Amy.
We are Hugo Girl, and normally we read Hugo Award-winning books, but I decided that we would read a book from my youth that is not it won no awards.
Well, it was a New York Times bestseller, I believe.
That's right, and it got favorable reviews in many local newspapers.
We read The Courtship of Princess Leia by Dave Wolverton, and technically it was a bestseller for like 3 weeks. It was part of a series of books that were very fun in the early 90s because, you know, no movie had come out since Return of the Jedi, and there was never going to be another movie as far as we knew. So this was just another glimpse into characters that you loved. And sometimes they were good and sometimes they weren't. So
I totally feel that when you really love a fandom or a series or a world and you just are like, well, I just want to see my friends again. That's how I felt about the Terror TV series. Although it was not great, I was very happy to see my men.
yes.
We lost many good men.
Oh, all of them.
All of them.
All right, let us jump into the overview. So this book, you can really just skim the last 100 pages. There's just like a lot of action and you don't know what's going on, so I'm not going to get into too much detail, but it's good to contextualize it. So this book takes place 4 years after Return of the Jedi, when the Emperor died and the Death Star was exploding. Han is still a general working for the Rebel Alliance, now the New Republic, like the official government, I guess. And he's been out in deep space looking for a bunch of bad guys have kind of fractured off and they're trying to get a foothold of power, named Warlord Zinj. And he goes out, doesn't find him. And he gets back to Coruscant, which is like the Washington, D.C. of the Star Wars universe. And he finds out that the Hapens, which are a matriarchal society of 63 worlds, they're in town. And they're gonna propose. They're gonna propose to Leia. They have this guy that to me looks like, in my head, Thor.
He looks like Fabio in my head.
Yeah, I had Fabio.
Oh yeah, I mean, like that's
kind of the same thing, though.
Yeah. That's what I had when I read it the first time, but I just think Thor is cuter now.
Yes, for sure.
Well,
yeah, the problem is this is what Dave Wolverton thinks women think is attractive. So.
I know.
Remember when Fabio was on a roller coaster?
Yes, I remembered.
That's so horrible.
He was okay.
Oh my god.
He was. The bird wasn't.
That's true. That bird died for an internet sensation.
Sorry.
It's okay.
I can't think of Fabio. That's like the first thing I see in my...
I think about I can't believe it's not butter.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. Okay, so this society wants Leia to marry their Prince Isolder, and she's like, maybe I will. He proposes a 6-month journey to tour his worlds, and she actually agrees, which, as I'll discuss later, this is very out of character for Princess Leia.
Yeah, nothing she does in this book makes much sense, but
I know,
we'll get to that.
But before she can leave on this journey, Han, who is very dismayed and sad, he gets drunk and goes and plays basically poker, space poker, down in like the belly of Coruscant, and wins a planet named Dathomir. And he's upset. Oh, and C-3PO. C-3PO.
Sassy bitch.
So this is like from straight out of the movie Spaceballs. C-3PO is like, oh, by the way, I found out that Han is a king, and he... It's so bad. And so, but that doesn't impress Leia. But C-3PO does write a song about this that I'll sing later. So Han Solo basically takes a stun gun and shoots Leia with it, and then kidnaps her. But if you look on the back of my copy of the book, this is how they describe it in the back of the book. Han Solo reacts badly to the news, tricking Leia. He flees with her. He didn't trick her.
That's not what he did.
No, guys.
He had kidnap her.
No, it's called the gun of command. You aim it at somebody and they just do what you tell them to do, which is literally all guns. That's how they all work. But I don't think it's a thing you physically shoot a person with. I think it's now that's very meta, because any gun you point at someone gets them to do what you want them to do.
Well, true, but in Star Wars, like in A New Hope, they set their guns to stun, and like it does like a blue circly thing, and they just go to sleep.
I don't think this is that.
You don't
think
think
it's
so?
different. It's called the gun of command. Yeah, I thought it was like it just makes you obey, but not through fear of being shot to death.
It like derails your like sense of like purpose, I think.
Oh,
Like,
no.
it-
I'm pretty sure it's just a stun
Oh,
gun.
girl,
Just a
girl, I
gun.
think you're wrong.
Yeah, no, I mean, like,
Oh, well. It does not like it matters.
True.
okay, so here's the polished black metal gun. I think it's just a gun. He goes,
I don't think so.
yeah.
I think it's like this famous weird gun that they make in Isolder's world.
I thought you loved rogues, Han said. A spray of blue sparks erupted from the gun, bringing forgetfulness in the night. Yeah, I mean, that's what it looks like when they shoot Princess Leia aboard the Tantive 4 in A New Hope. It's just...
Well, I think what we can all agree on is it wasn't a trick. He wasn't like, Leia, there's a party on Dathomir for you.
Yeah, no. And so, okay, where was I? He kidnaps Leia, and then they fly to this new planet that he owns, which is a weird thing to say. And then...
Aha! Wait. Gun of Command released an electromagnetic wave field that virtually neutralized an enemy's voluntary thought processes.
Huh. So he gave her a roofie. Okay, cool.
Yes, that's exactly what Kevin
exactly
said.
what
Kevin said,
space
oh, a
roofie.
space roofie.
Yeah. All right. I thought it was just a stun gun, but I guess it's the same thing. How tricky of him. So
He tricked her. He tricked her.
Oh. So then they fly through hyperspace to this planet, and Han is like trying to make a meal, and she's being all sassy, like, no, I want it to be colder. Oh, it's so bad. And then they finally get to the planet a couple days later, and then the fleet is there, the bad guy fleet. So they crash land on the planet and find it's occupied by witches, which I love, who use the Force, but they don't know it's the Force, so whatever. It's yet another matriarchal society, so Dave Wolverton is doing some cool stuff sometimes. And so, yeah, so they're not unlike the Hapens in terms of wanting, women to be in charge and the men are slaves, blah, blah, blah. They're at war with a rival clan called the Night Sisters, one of whom, Gethzerian, is working in tandem with the Imperial guys. Fighting, rescuing. In the end, Leia falls back in love with Han. Isolder falls for a warrior princess. Luke is still celibate, and then the book ends. He's almost late to Leia's wedding, which is really weird because he would have been like a groom.
It's so stupid.
Luke would never be late.
They took him.
His lift took him to the Alderanian embassy, not the Alderanian embassy. 200 kilometers away. I don't know what a kilometer is still, even
far.
after being with the Canadian for this many years. It's our anniversary. But
Happy anniversary.
thank you. But why would he not know with all of his forcing?
Oh, he would also...
Or just looking out the window, man.
He also is the brother. He was the best man. He would have been there 6 hours before.
You would think.
So that's the book in a nutshell.
And C-38PO is put in a closet because he's like, oh wait, Han's not king of anything.
Yeah.
Which is like the implication being Leia would marry him if he wasn't the king of Corellia.
He's not the king of Corellia.
Of course he's not the king of Corellia.
Yeah. Goodreads has some gems.
It sure does.
All right. The very best Goodreads review is by a woman named Kaylin, the reread queen. And the title of it is, "To call this fanfic is an insult to fanfic."
I saw that one.
Yeah, and she goes on to tell, she writes a very long post that's very funny, and she uses a lot of images. In her head, Isolder is alien Michael Bolton, and it's very funny.
Yes, I read that one.
Yeah. I would read it, but it's so long. And to be fair, I think, this book is obviously not high art, and it's not even well written, but I mean, it's I do wonder what people want from a book about Luke Skywalker that was, I don't know.
Well, this wasn't really about Luke, really.
Well, I think
exactly,
it's like make it make sense. Like it doesn't have to be art, but I do think it should more or less make some sense. And I mean, I liked the end. It was interesting that you said like the last 100 pages, you don't kind of know what's going on. I actually felt like maybe the last 50 pages was when I enjoyed it the most, because the rest of the book, it's like you're halfway through the book and then he's like, and there's evil space witches. So I was like, what is this book doing? There's so many twists and turns that have nothing to do with anything.
Oh yeah.
And I read in one of the Goodreads reviews, and I just choose to believe it because it makes sense to me, that Dave Wolverton was originally planning to write a trilogy, and then that contract didn't work out or something, so all the plot points got crammed into this book, and I definitely can imagine how that was the case.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I mean, I think my favorite part of this book, and I hadn't read it in 20 years at least, I don't really care about the Han Solo and Princess Leia stuff. Like, I was just really into the idea of these, like, witches. I thought that was really cool. I liked how they rode the Rancors, like horses, even though they're big monsters. And for people that don't know what a Rancor is, it's the thing in the basement of Jabba's palace in Return of the Jedi. So it's like a big honking monster.
Yeah, Kevin took issue with whether or not they would be able to swim.
Oh, yeah.
And the reason that he knew about them swimming was because I read him the passage where they're swimming on their Rancors and Han and Isolde are engaging in like a splash fight, like a toxic masculinity splash fight over Leia.
Oh my God, it was so funny.
It was so awkward. And I had the note that I made there is, why are Luke and Leia still horny for each other this much later? Because she says like she can feel his emotions of delight mingled with desire, and she winked at him.
It's so bad. It's so bad.
Oh, I skipped ahead though. We're still on Goodreads. Sorry.
Yeah. That was my main one. Just because a lot of people either really, really take issue with, you know, the nonsensical plot, which I totally get, or they're just like, you know, I love Star Wars and I like seeing this. I like seeing my friends, so I get it.
I have a couple.
Yeah, please do.
And like you said, most of them are very long, so I just have little snippets. So from user Eric, his review opened with, I couldn't help myself. I had to read a bad Star Wars book. This delivered.
Oh.
And then this one from Donna, I've never seen any two characters written more out of character than Han and Leia in this book. Heck, everyone is out of character except maybe Chewie. Luke, Joel Osteen, Skywalker trying to evangelize and convert everyone. And the part that made me audibly say, oh my God, was singing and dancing C-3PO.
Yes.
That was my favorite part.
I really feel the Joel Osteen thing because one of the notes I made was that Luke is like a love and light yoga lady on Instagram.
Yes.
Well, he would be posting pictures of words over sunsets left and right.
Oh, yeah.
I think the author might be Mormon, which makes a lot of sense.
Oh, yeah.
Because he lives in Utah. He teaches at Brigham Young.
Oh, yeah.
And he's been in like the L. Ron Hubbard anthologies. So I feel like he's probably Mormon, and this is probably where this part of Luke came from, is their whole thing about evangelizing.
Oh, absolutely. One character that I really liked, who's not in it very much, is the Fabio's mom, the Queen Mother Tatsume. and she's just the dowager in my head. I love her.
She's such a bitch.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. So, yeah.
She's, like, killing all the kids.
I think so obviously I'm not a normal person when it comes to reading this book. Like, I read all these as a child, and they mean a lot to me. And even so, this is not a good book objectively. But there's so many little details that I just love that I don't know why, but like even on page 1, so Han Solo has been out looking for this bad guy, and he's on a ship made by the people whose race is Admiral Akbar. So they're called Mon Calamarians, which I know is a stupid name. But
I didn't know that was Admiral Akbar.
Well, I don't know if Akbar was on the specific ship, but like his people are that race of salmon people, basically, and they live underwater on a planet called Mon Calamari, and so like because of but because they're in space, they so their ships are set to very high humidity, and like just those little tiny details I just love. I don't know. So
well, I
totally get that.
Yeah, and he clearly likes the world. You know, he likes to roll around in the world in this book. Which I mean, I think those were probably the best parts. Like,
yeah, little bits. Yeah,
just stringing them together with a plot was where he kind of.
Oh yeah.
My favorite review on Amazon was the person who went through a little bit of an exhaustive discussion. And in the end, he said, I'll give the book 1 star because I liked the cover art. Thank you.
Yeah.
That was a she, sorry. It was Lauren.
Well, so there's 2 covers, and one has Leia in a wedding dress, and then one has...
terrible.
That's what I have.
But the one that me and Lori have, it's them in their indoor like camouflage gear. So, boo.
I see, that'd probably be better. I have wedding dress. And Luke looking very fantasy book cover.
Oh, no. That's Isolde with the long hair standing up straight.
That's supposed to be Isolde?
Mm-hmm. And then you have Han Solo in a turtleneck, which is hilarious.
He looked cute in that turtleneck, though.
I mean, Han Solo's a handsome man.
Yeah,
You lose a lot of heat out the neck. So
Leonard.
says Wayne.
Oh, that's supposed to be Ice Holder. Well, they had him next to R2 looking off at the Tatooine Suns, so I figured it was Luke.
Nope. Luke keeps his hair nice and tight.
I continue to be bothered by the fact that C-3PO and R2-D2 were spelled out this whole book.
Oh, I never even noticed.
I have seen you, Haley, write out 3PO and R2 enough times that I was used to it, but the C-3PO
Thank you,
really was what got me. I was like, now that's strange.
Thank you.
But the 3PO and R2 I'm used to.
It's a word.
Since Haley does text about them a lot.
It's letters and numbers. They're droids.
No, but in a book, you can't just have... It's probably AP.
Sure can.
It's probably AP style, like spelling out 10,000. You can't always just do numbers. I know about numbers.
As an MLA person, I object.
I'm a copywriter. I know about numbers.
I'm an AP style. Well, yeah. Well, no. So the longest entry in the AP style guide is about how you write numbers, and so ages are always numbers. But if you have a number that starts a sentence, it has to be spelled out. Like if you say 10,000 people were killed,
I know that, but
there's all kinds of rules though for like weights
Don't be telling me they were all editing for AP style when they had the comma splices and the wrong words and like.
Oh my God. I wanted to change the name of this book to The Comma Splices of Dave Wolverton. I could not believe it. And I'm really not a purist on that. I think every now and then for emphasis, it actually does sound better.
Absolutely.
But it would be like Isolde dropped his blaster, ran to Leia. What are you doing? It was all over the place. There were so many.
For me, it was the using the wrong word in the wrong spot. That was what got me, man. And this is an English professor of creative writing at Brigham Young University. Learn your vocabulary. He taught Brandon Sanderson. I looked this guy up because I was so curious, like what his like writing chops were, and he's like.
I think creative writing is not like a hardcore grammarian who teaches 1101 though. At least from my experience.
He's written a lot of books. This guy's written a lot of books, and not all like Star Wars books. Like he's written legit books. And
I mean, as we know from airport books, you don't have to be a good writer to be a popular writer.
Where was his editor? That's what I want to know.
Yeah. Somebody had that job.
He was failed by his editors.
But I guess this was in 1985.
94.
No, 94. Oh no, the other book I'm reading is 1985. Never mind.
They knew about grammar in 94.
So I was going to say, did Star Wars have a huge fandom? But yes.
It does have a huge fandom.
Well, I mean, at the time,
94,
could they have hired a good team of editors? Yes, they could have.
This is Bantam Spectra, and the books that preceded this, the Timothy Zahn trilogy in 91, like those were on the bestseller list for a year. So
they dashed this thing off to get in on the craze.
Yeah, I mean, I think science fiction books are always kind of ghettoized, and like people don't really care. So
I care.
A lot of it, I felt like he was trying to write a movie or a TV show. Like the dialogue, it is so silly on the page and would have made more sense as like a muttered comment on a TV show or a movie. Like there's a point where Han grabs some blasters away from stormtroopers when they're in the prison on Dathomir, and I guess they're hot because they've fired them.
Oh, I know this part.
And Han goes, oh, hot? Yeah. And it's like, just reading it just doesn't work. It just doesn't work on the page. But it would be fine if I were watching, like I kept imagining the original movies and trying to picture these scenes, and they made a lot more sense because the original movies did have like little funny moments and asides and snarky comments.
For sure.
They work better visually and out loud, I think.
Yeah. I definitely think you could see what he was seeing in his head when he was writing all this, for sure.
He's writing a screenplay.
Yes.
Which I think happens a lot. Like with books like this that are like crappy airport books, I just read the dialogue. Like sometimes I'll just like scan and not even read like the shitty
maybe
lyrics.
that's why there were comma splices. It was actually stage direction. It's not supposed to be read as a sentence. He dropped the blaster, ran to Leia.
Exuent pursued by a rancor. Yeah. No, it's probably true. Yeah, no, I mean, again, I can offer up no defense of shitty writing. So
what were you looking for when I derailed us into that?
Oh, I was thinking, so obviously everyone's like, oh, this book is not like what Leia would do. She would never do this. But here, I was thinking about it, and maybe she would. So like this is 4 years after Return of the Jedi. They're still battling remnants of the Empire. A couple years prior, her entire home planet was destroyed. I could maybe see her being like, you know what? If this can help us win, fuck it, I'll do it.
I totally agree with you. A political marriage is a thing.
With 63 worlds, with all these ships, like,
Yeah, and a
maybe it would be a
place
good
for
idea.
her Alderaanian diaspora to settle and be safe. Yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
I'm fine with that. It's the writing in the fact that maybe she was falling in love with him that bugged me.
Yeah.
Maybe she was falling in lust with him.
She did find him attractive, as he said 400 times in this book.
Yeah,
She found him very attractive.
if it's
He
Thor,
sounds hot. He goes around bare-chested in a half cape.
He does.
He's literally dressed like a Party City stripper.
half cape.
Go back
The
to Party
half
City
cape
where you
cracks me
belong. It's
up.
older.
He's always in a half silk. What is it? A half-length silk cloak. When they first see him, he's bare-chested. He's wearing a hat. This is in my boob talk section, but I'll just jump ahead.
Yes, Ice Holder's boob top.
Yeah,
The man was bare-chested except for a small silk half cloak fastened with silver clasps, and he was wearing a veil. And here's another example of Dave Wolverton's writing regarding the veil. Isolde used the thumbs and index fingers of both hands to pull the veil back over his face.
it's so dainty.
Oh, the thumbs and the index finger. He didn't use his feet.
I like to imagine all the other fingers expand. What's the word?
Flayed out.
like
yeah.
just sticking right out. Yeah.
Yes.
Like he's having a tea party with his pinky. Yeah. No. Yes. I think that's a perfect segue to boob talk. Like the men are much more prominently described, especially
Boobed.
Isolde. My favorite part is talking about all the lizard skin clothes that the witches wear. I just was trying to imagine what lizard skin would look like and how many lizards it would take. I know, but like I guess it's a big lizard making these big old pieces of bustiers, I imagine.
Those poor people, all they do is pour puddles in the ground and wait for the woofas to come up and then they seize them. That's how they hunt for woofas.
It reminds me of that scene in Monty Python and the Quest for the Holy Grail where they come upon the people who are just digging in the mud and then they start shouting about democracy.
Some watery
exactly
tart
right.
threw a sword at you. So this could go in misogynist moment, but I might put it in boob talk. So this is how Isolde eventually comes to be the slave of Tenennial Ka. How do y'all pronounce it? Tenennial?
I say Tenennial.
I like Tenennial. Okay, so here's what's going through Isolde's head while she changes, because these women...
Oh, I have this one. I love it.
Tenennial was not a beautiful woman by Hapin standards. In fact, she was rather plain. But Isolde decided she had some rather fascinating musculature. She was definitely athletic. I've seen a few women on Hapes with her kind of build. Not the compact, beefy muscles of a bodybuilder, nor quite the leanness of a runner or swimmer. Instead, she was something in between. What? I couldn't even picture it.
She's a frisbee player.
Her, do you like to climb a lot?
Oh, and then she says, I do, because it gets me sweaty, and then I climb up and take off my shirt or something, right?
Yes.
Here's what I hate the most about this book. It's a G-rated romance novel because that's all we get. If you're going to make me read that, I'm sorry. I'd like for us to go all the way.
Oh, absolutely. And like use some weird metaphors. Like, come on. I would love to see how Dave Wolverton would use a word for penis. Like, what would he use? Member?
Lightsaber.
Well, Han Solo at
Saber.
one point tells Luke, when Han Solo is trying to convince Luke that he needs to be into Tenennial, he says, if it were me, I'd go right up and ask her if she wants to ride on my Rancor.
Wah, wah.
He did say that.
Han wouldn't say that. Han is like, he's a churlish rogue, but he's got class, I think. So,
Well, I also feel like Han's sort of a minds his own business kind of person.
absolutely.
Like he's judging you, but he's doing it from over there.
Smirking with his little sideways
Yeah.
grin. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, Han's very much in everybody's business, always has a comment, and he's like 14. I feel like Han would be a lot more likely to be like, okay, fine, you want to go marry a prince? Fine. See if I care, and stomp off in a huff. Like this whole like kidnapping her to another planet thing, I think it's beneath him.
I agree. And it smacks of desperation.
Yeah, which is not something that we really ever get from him as a character prior to this.
What's funny, I was reading reviews of this, and like, so the very first majorly successful Star Wars novel that came out is set 5 years after Return of the Jedi, and they already have kids, they're married, Leia's doing a good job running the government. So it's like he wrote this book that nobody asked for. I just assumed that since Return of the Jedi that they had a good relationship and then they get married. Like 1 year prior to their marriage, they're like, oh man, oof, I'm gonna marry this Hapen guy, we're gonna go to another planet. Like it's silly.
So a year later, they have kids, plural?
Yes.
Is it twins?
Yeah, because they have Jason and Jaina, the twins. Or no, she's pregnant.
I don't know anything about that. When do they have Ben Solo?
Oh wait, hold on. No, they
don't in the books, right? They have Anakin. They have Jason and Jaina and Anakin.
Yeah. No, I don't know if she's pregnant. No. She doesn't get. They have kids at some point, and I don't know if she's pregnant in the 5th one or in Heir to the Empire, but yeah, but like they seem to have a good relationship. And then in the Jedi Academy trilogy, there's the 3rd. Yeah, so it's Jason and Jaina are twins, and there's Anakin later on. But yeah,
they made Ben up for the movies?
Yeah, everything is different. They didn't use hardly anything from the expanded universe, which is why so many people like me were upset.
Now I understand.
Yeah, no, Ben Skywalker was a character. So Luke and Mara Jade have a son, but and his name is Ben. But yeah, no. And so the books in which I talk about Lobaka that was such a hit with y'all, those are set, and that's the Young Jedi series, and they're set like 20 years after Return of the Jedi, and you have the adventures of Jason and Jaina at Luke Skywalker's Jedi Academy in Yavin 4, and then they've got Lobaka, their friend, and then they have another friend. You'll love this, Tenel Ka, who is the daughter of Isolder and Teneniel. And
yeah,
those books are actually really great because they're for young adults, and like there's no pretense and there's no nonsense. It's just like a fun young A book. So
those books had the characters of Isolder and Teneniel in them, and he sort of shoehorned them into this.
Oh no, this was
already
first,
existed.
No,
this came first. Okay.
Yeah, so now's a good time to talk about the influence of this book. So obviously a lot of stuff was scrapped when Disney took over, but the Night Sisters, the bad people, they're kind of changed around a little bit, and they become big in the Clone Wars TV show. And Darth Maul is actually on the planet Dathomir. That's where he's from. There's like male Night Sisters, kind of. What else? In the most recent Star Wars video game I played, Fallen Order, one of the planets you go to is Dathomir, and there's Rancors there. And in the video game, it's a lot more, and in the Clone Wars, it's a lot more of like a desolate, deserty type planet, and not as lush as I was picturing it in this book. But
no, it's it's very Hawaii to me in my mind.
Yeah, but it's definitely had a lot of influence in some ways, and then not in others, obviously. So
fascinating.
Yeah.
Well, one thing that kept getting me, because in the movie Solo, Han's last name comes from Han saying like Solo when he is going through the customs checkpoint or whatever.
Yeah, they made that up.
But in this book, yeah, he's got a whole family line.
Nope, they just scrapped everything.
Not anymore.
Like 20 years of books, and they were like, you know what, we can do better, and then they just fucking redo the same plot from other movies.
Huh.
Yep. So that's why the nerds are angry. I am not too angry because I still have these books, and it doesn't take away from my enjoyment of them. But
well, it seems like that name thing would be a really easy thing for them not to put in Solo. You know what I mean? Like it's just this one little moment that they could not have had.
I would imagine that a lot of people that were writing the new movies didn't read a lot of these.
I think that's probably accurate.
Yeah. So
well, they started off too in that movie with, I think the premise was that he was like a orphan refugee. And Daenerys Targaryen.
That's true.
Yeah, and in that movie, Corellia is supposed to be like some shithole, but in the books, like it's a nice planet. It's part of a nice system. So
it's a place you'd want to be the king of.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because he's Corellian in the movies too. Like he's
yeah. All right. Huh. What's next? Okay, my feminist favorite. Oh man, this made me laugh out loud, and it's one of the situations where there's like crappy dialogue that probably wouldn't be said in real life. But I don't know if y'all have watched Killing Eve, but the bad character Villanelle, she's got a funny way of speaking, and she's got a weird accent. And so here's how I'm going to do it. I'm going to read it, and then I'm going to do her voice in Villanelle's voice.
Okay.
They're down on Dathomir, and Isolder is talking to Leia about how, even though it's a matriarchal society, his marriage is going to be very important because his marriage will create the next Queen Mother. And he goes, in a sense, I hold ultimate power, for although I'm only a man, I will choose the next Queen Mother. And then Tenennial looks at Isolde and laughed. I will choose the next Queen Mother, she mocked, feigning the accent surprisingly well. I have all the power. She shot a wicked smile over her shoulder as she rubbed down a rancor and laughed. You're so dumb.
Haley, that was my feminist fave too.
Oh, yay. I love that. She was just like, I can just picture her being like, you're so dumb.
Yes. And she like sort of pipes up into their like undergraduate discourse on the nature of power. And she's like, you're dumb.
But like, just like with like a fake Russian accent. I just picture Villanelle.
I held out the power. I'm a man. You're so dumb.
Yeah. My second favorite was at one point, I think this is when one of the witches wants to grab Luke and steal him as a slave. And Luke goes, wait, you can't just take men as slaves and mate with them anytime you please. And that's very much like, you can't just ask people why they're white from Mean Girls. So yeah.
Bless.
Y'all got any ones that are different?
I didn't have any.
I would argue that like...
My feminist fave was definitely that. I also, arguably what he does in this book is, I think he's trying to do something feminist, sort of.
Absolutely. I mean, having two patriarchal societies is pretty badass, in my opinion.
But they are also both a mess.
Oh, yeah.
I like that he makes the women complex enough to be, they can go to the dark side or the light. I don't like what he did with Leia, but, I don't think that her decision-making as far as the power marriage was crazy. I generally thought he was trying to do good things with women in this book, so I was for it.
Yeah.
I couldn't unpack. I was like, he's created these matriarchal societies, but the Hapen society, everybody's power grabbing and backstabbing, and Isolde's constantly like, I just need to find me a good woman, unlike all these women from my hometown. and then the witches on Dathomir are like living this relatively primitive lifestyle, and all they want to do is get off that rock. And they keep trying to find a man to bring them a ship so they can get off of Dathomir. So I agree with Amy. I appreciate what he was doing, but I also was like, I don't know. Both of these societies are kind of wrecked. But then by the same token, the Empire was also not a good place.
Yeah, so, that's true.
I don't know. I didn't want to think about it that much, so I didn't make any feminist favorite or misogynist moment notes.
Show me a society that's not a wreck, like besides like Canada.
That's true.
It makes sense. Like the Hapen, them being backstabby in the Hapen worlds, like made a little bit of sense to me because they had to exist in the general political climate of the universe. Like the Dathomir people wanting to get off their rock also makes sense to me because they have evidence on the planet of there being other things that have better technology than what they have and like that sort of thing. If they didn't have like that prison there, I think that would make a little less sense, but they have sort of a glimpse of like other things. So I think that makes a little bit of sense, but
it is funny. They're just like, I need like a part of a ship here. I need a part of a ship there. Get me off this planet.
And then they built a Millennium Falcon. There was a fake Millennium Falcon on the planet.
Well, no. There's just, so that's a YT-1300 ship. So like, it's like a Honda
You're
Accord.
a YT-1300 ship.
Yeah, there's just, it's like a Toyota Corolla. There's lots of them.
And they're really good.
Corellia?
Yeah,
that's about
Corellia.
I know what I'm being for Dragon Con next year. Yeah, no, they're just like mass-produced ships. So yeah.
Okay. I think in my head, Han had like built that ship. I don't know why.
No, so he does a lot of customizations to it, but no, it's just like a stock freighter. So yeah.
So it's like a Toyota Corellia with like lifts and glow lights underneath and like a fancy subwoofer in the trunk. And
he's got the loud muffler.
Yeah.
Should I read C-3PO's song?
Yes.
Well, you said you were going to sing it earlier.
I expect singing, please.
So whenever this happens in a book when they have lyrics, and even if there was music, I don't read music. I keep thinking about like how it would sound. And at one point in the book, Princess Leia gets it like stuck in her head. I'm like, what is that song? And I was trying to sing it to like, at one point I was trying to sing it to a new Harry Styles song. That didn't work, but all right. I'm just going to read it because y'all know I can't sing. Okay, so C-3PO. And again, C-3PO, my favorite character in the entire Star Wars universe, which I know is very contentious. He composes. He's really playing wingman to Han Solo, which is funny because
he's trying as hard as he can.
They do not get along. Like C-3PO kind of belongs to Luke and Leia, I think, at this point. And in later books, it becomes clear that like he hangs out a lot with her. But so he writes this like hundreds of stanzas, but he only sings a couple in the book. But he says, all right, he's got his own planet, although it's kind of wild. Wookiees love him. Women love him. He's got a winning smile. Though he may seem cool and cocky, he's more sensitive than he seems. Han Solo, what a man, Solo. He's every princess's dream.
Han Solo, what a man. Solo, he's every princess's dream. How's that?
Yeah, that works.
Perfect.
I have a hook.
You got a hook. Gotta write you get you a bridge, chorus. All right. So our very new segment, Culinary Corner. So as Han Solo,
fantasy food still.
oh, is it fantasy foods?
I
think
know.
you said fantastic food fragment.
Fantastic.
And a sentence fragment is probably easy to find in this book.
Okay, so
did anybody eat?
I had 2. I had roasted nuts and spiced Eric tongue.
Yeah. So here's to set it up. So Han Solo has stolen Princess Leia, and he's trying to win her over by being on her beck and call. And somehow the Millennium Falcon has a kitchen, which I didn't know. I mean, I could imagine like a little galley or something.
A galley, yeah.
Spiced Eric tongue with Jew powder, prepared by Han Solo wearing an apron. And also multiple types of wine. Does the Falcon have a wine cellar? I don't.
The only thing I can think of is that maybe he stalked the Millennium Falcon before he stole her because he was like, "I'm going to try and woo her with this fancy food."
He went he went to Space Trader Joe's.
Yeah, like he stocked up before they was going to go to Dathomir with her and like surprise her with this amazing gallantry. It was like I imagined that he had planned ahead for that, but
yeah,
maybe not. I don't know.
That's true. So that was my little. So food in Star Wars I love because you don't see very much of it. So in some of the later books, there's a lot of it, and I always got a kick out of it. It's always very spicy, which I liked. Alrighty.
What about massage? Did we do misogynist moment?
I technically put my boob talk into misogynist moment, but I brought it back into boob talk. But if you got something.
Oh no! I mean, my misogynist moment was just Han kidnapping Leia and her just being like, okay.
Yeah, maybe also arguably what Dave Wolverton does to Leia's character at points,
Oh, God bless.
Oh, do you know who I loved? I loved the old crone witch that's 300 years old that like
Rel
doesn't know if she. Yeah, Rel doesn't.
She calls Yoda an old flirt.
I know.
Doesn't
that was
know.
an old flirt.
That's like when Maz Kanata calls Chewbacca her boyfriend. That's cute.
I loved Rel. She was great, and she was like, "Oh, I've just been sitting on the." Oh, that was a whole subplot. Luke was looking for the records of the Jedi, so that he could like recreate the academy and stuff. And he's been looking everywhere for him. He couldn't find him anywhere. And then Rel's like, "Oh, I've been sitting on them this whole time." And then he just opens up the
literally, and she's like, sometimes asleep in the future.
Luke is such a pain in this. I know that there's a big deal about like don't let the dark side take over, but like, what are you doing when you kill somebody in battle? Is that a love and light use of the Force? Now, I understand it's self-defense. I'm not mad at it.
Yeah.
But Luke's always like, only do good. Well, then like force float them away from you, Luke.
Yeah.
Why are you killing people? He's so holier than thou. He's very like Joel Osteen.
Yeah, no, he is. This is not Luke's best book. It's true.
I watched Return of the Sith last night with my nieces.
Aw.
And I hadn't seen it in a really long time, and I kept thinking about what Luke what Luke says in this book while I was watching that, because obviously that's where little Anakin tips over into the dark side. And it was interesting to me that Mace Windu could threaten the Chancellor and be okay, but then Luke, like, if it just seemed weird to me. I don't know where the fighting killing is okay and when it's not. Like, if Mace Windu knew he was going to save a bunch of people from the Chancellor, like, with that, does that make it okay? Is it like take out Hitler before he becomes Hitler kind of thing?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think part of the problem with Luke doing it is that he was going to kill his flesh and blood and a child, whereas the Emperor was like an evil old man. So that's where I would draw the line.
That's true. That makes some sense.
Yeah. I mean, like a child. Oof.
Speaking of killing children, on my list of words that David Wolverton doesn't know, or that his editors don't know, he accuses his mom of infanticide for killing his like 30-year-old brother. And I like went and looked it up, and infanticide definitely means killing a baby.
I thought he killed the brother when it was a baby.
I don't think so, because didn't
They were
wasn't
on
his
a
brother
ship and
killed by like space pirates?
yeah, because that's when he goes out and finds the space. Maybe he was a baby.
I think he had multiple brothers though. That's what I took away from it. Yeah. No, I mean, like, what is it called when you kill? So, like,
it's filicide when you kill your child.
Okay, gotcha.
But if like anybody kills any baby, it doesn't have to be related. It's infanticide.
Okay.
I would be inclined to give him the benefit of the doubt for the infanticide thing,
except
if he did not also use the word ancestor when he meant descendant.
Oh.
Yeah, like there's this one part where hold on, let me find it.
It's one of my favorite anachronisms where he's talking to his mother and he's like, "You said you didn't want our ancestors to be spoon benders."
Yeah.
Somehow this was a long, long time ago, but we still have Uri Geller for a reference point.
And they say that the witches on Dathomir have Iron Age technology, but the Iron Age is many, many years in the future, and on a different planet.
Oh my god! In like the first chapter of Heir to the Empire,
Heir to the Empire.
C-3PO goes up onto a roof where Luke Skywalker is like just being, thoughtful, looking out over Coruscant, and C-3PO is like, "What are you drinking, sir?" And so Luke Skywalker's like, "Oh, it's called hot chocolate."
Yeah, no. We're gonna need to have some. We're gonna need to have some South Americans to have hot chocolate. We're gonna need to have...
I love weird American things in or weird Earth things in Star Wars. I love it. So
like the Iron Age.
Yeah.
I have a roundup of sick burns from this book.
Ooh,
are they all from C-3PO?
No, actually, only one of them. So, and Haley, the quote that you read from Tenennial, I should have put that on the list when she's like, "You're so dumb."
You're so dumb.
Didn't catch that one. So, first, I want to preface this with, although this book is a mess, it has moments where it's so good, like Rel, the old crone who's just sitting on all of the 8 tracks that Luke is looking for.
On the whole time.
And like all these funny things, and the witches are cool, and these sick burns, the book is just punctuated with them, and they're so good. So there's a part where C-3PO is arguing that Han is eligible to marry Leia because he's a king, and the guy Threm, I don't remember who he is. Threm somebody, he's like a bureaucrat or something.
Yeah, bureaucrat.
And he's all like, "No way, she can't marry Han Solo. He's a nobody." And C-3PO's like, "Well, I actually heard from this computer down in the city." And there's this whole thing about computer gossip, which is very funny. And he says that he's descendant from Dala Sul, who was the king of Corellia. And then Threm says something snotty about how even if he is king of Corellia, he's still not good enough. And he's like, "Oh, he was a pirate and a criminal." And C-3PO says, "I am just an ignorant droid and confess that I don't really understand how the actions of one's ancestors enhance or detract from one's respectability. But since Dala Sul's illegitimate daughter was your mother, I expect that you are infinitely more familiar with the logic of the argument than I am."
Oh.
Also, correct use of ancestors.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yes.
And then the next one I have, got 3. The next one is Luke is thinking to himself about Isolde and realizes that Isolde's got some talent with the Force, although not that much. And Luke thinks to himself, this was Luke's chance to practice, to teach someone to follow the light side of the Force without the pressure of having to worry about whether the student would become another Vader.
Womp womp.
He's not good enough.
He ain't good though.
And then the last one I have is...
I get it. That took me a second. He's saying
it's a very subtle burn. Very subtle burn.
Got it.
I loved it. I laughed out loud. And then the last one I have is Luke confronts some Night Sisters and he's like, "Leave this place." And one of them says to him, "Or what? Or you'll bleed all over us when we pop your head open?"
Very. That's the Monty Python. What you gonna do? Bleed on me?
They're so funny. And then like Han goes and checks the oil in the Millennium Falcon for 8 pages. But going back to what you said initially, Haley, I 100% understand why immersed fan of the Star Wars universe would love reading Han changing the spark plugs or whatever in the Falcon for 5 pages, or like the card game. I feel like you would love that because you're getting all those details of that universe that means so much to you. Whereas for me, as a very, very, very casual Star Wars fan, I like it. It's fine. But I was reading it and I was like, okay, another card. Okay.
Oh, I even skimmed the card game because I'm like, I don't know these rules. Fuck this shit.
That's so funny. I really liked the card game.
Oh, really?
Did you?
I don't know why.
When I was,
because like C-3PO kept leaning over and being like, "This ain't gonna work," and then it did it, and then it would work, and it was I don't know. I thought it was funny.
When I was in high school, do you know how you could play solitaire on your computer? I downloaded like a virtual Sabbath game, and it was fun.
Of course you did.
And I didn't know the rules. and I didn't know the rules, but I loved it. And there's like,
did you win a planet?
I did not win any planets.
Oh,
I'm surprised that this planet you could just win in a card game, but I guess that's Yeah.
Oh, and that Han hadn't played space poker in a long time, and then he just rolls in like from sheer desperation and wins the whole planet.
I know, right? He was just,
it wouldn't be any fun if Han didn't win the card game, right?
That's true. That's true.
That's true. There wouldn't be a book. Haley, does Dathomir? Well, you said that it comes back in the Clone Wars in the cartoon. Is that right?
Yeah.
So do they ever like make anything of the planet? Oh no, because he gave title of the planet to the Singing Mountain clan sisters,
so that
didn't
they
he?
could use the gems to pay for their wedding.
I'm pretty sure in the later incarnations, Dathomir wasn't one in a card game, and it wasn't. Yeah, I mean, like it's its own sovereign planet in the Clone Wars. So,
y'all, wait, y'all. Okay, so the most un-Leia thing I think Leia does in this whole book is the Dathomir people give Han a bunch of gems and gold and stuff to pay for the deed to Dathomir, and Han's like, I can't take this. And Leia, instead of being like, let's take this money and put it in the frickin' Republic that we're trying to build, is like, well, we can use it to pay for the wedding, Han.
That was pretty funny. Yeah, that was definitely out of character as well.
Gross. Leia would have been like, well, I guess she was an Alderaanian princess. I imagine she wanted a little pomp and circumstance, but
she was used to having nice things.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I don't know.
She needed a man that could support her in the lifestyle to which she'd grown accustomed. Yeah.
Which is why C-3PO gets put in a closet so that he doesn't tell anybody that Han's not the king of Corellia, because then obviously Leia wouldn't marry him anymore if he wasn't the king of Corellia.
True.
So I was very upset at that scene. I don't like the mistreatment of artificial intelligence. It really bothers me.
Especially not C-3PO.
3PO.
Oh, they're always shutting him down in Empire Strikes Back. They're like, oh, there's like a button on his neck.
That's true.
So I sent y'all a picture of the Night Sisters in the Clone Wars, and Lori said they look like Coraline strippers, and she ain't wrong.
And then they also look like Madame Raz from She-Ra, and Madame Raz came way before Clone Wars.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And Madame Raz is purple like the Night Sisters.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying.
They had such bruised faces. I felt bad for these women.
Was it like from using the Force too hard?
Maybe. I think so. Yeah.
It's disfiguring, right? Like
that,
that was something I took away.
Yeah.
I just remember taking away from watching the movies and stuff that if you deal in the dark side, you end up with disfigurements.
I mean, that's a basic tenet of like all witchcraft, I guess.
Yeah, whatever comes back to you comes back 3 times or whatever. Yeah.
How did Darth Maul end up looking like he looked?
That is just the way that his people look.
Oh, that's just him. That's just himself. Okay, got it.
He is what's called a Zabrak, and they are friends with the Night Sisters on Dathomir in the Clone Wars. So,
is he a human?
No,
or is a Zabrak a different species?
It's a humanoid species. So, like, they've got like the horns and that kind of stuff. Yeah.
I thought he was just cool looking.
Yeah, no, I mean, he's just an alien that has a funny face. So, all right. Is this Star Wars or Lord of the Rings?
Lord of the Rings. It's Lord of the Rings
so much. And here's my argument. They ride wild beasts and there's magic. There's a fellowship of friends going to a place like Isengard.
Yep.
The Rancors are ints. And I'd argue that the witches of Dathomir are not unlike elves. So.
Yeah.
elves, or the Night Sisters are like orcs.
Yes.
Yeah. So,
Oh man, it's Lord of the Rings. You did
This Star
surprise us,
Wars book
Haley.
is Lord of the Rings.
the irony. I was laughing so hard last night as I drafted
I'm
this.
so glad that you agree, because I was afraid you're going to get mad when I said it was Lord of the Rings, but I was like, there's no other interpretation. This book, this is a fantasy novel.
Oh, absolutely. Yep.
That's so funny. Oh, it's Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, they are very.
Except for the science fiction aspect of this book is that they just have whatever they need to have. Like if there's some gadget that they need, it just exists.
Yeah.
Like Han's like, oh, I need to hide the falcon. Let me pull out my my camouflage net, and he lays it on the sand, and it literally says it takes a picture of the sand, and then you throw a giant photograph blanket over the Millennium Falcon, and then you can't see it anymore.
Yep.
Literally every time they're like, oh, I pulled out my instant doing this thing, and it just doesn't.
What's that?
And yet these poor witches can't get what they need to get off their planet.
They just want to move out of this like blighted neighborhood, and they can't.
This one rancor town.
This one rancor town. It's true. Rancors are ints. I had to do some Lord of the Rings research last night, and I was like the devil quoting scripture last night as I was like Googling Lord of the Rings. I was like, all right, what else can I find? So I think I told y'all I have to watch those movies because my favorite podcast is going to be watching them for the first time and talking about them. So
the Lord of the Rings movies?
Because they did all the Star Wars movies, like all 12 of them or whatever. So
Newcomers is doing Lord of the Rings now.
Yeah. So
I listened to a couple. I listened to their A New Hope episode, and they hated it so much that I kind of didn't like listening to it.
Aww.
But then I listened to the second episode, and they really liked that one, and that was very fun to listen to. I enjoyed it.
What's really funny is that they love Phantom Menace and they love Jar Jar. It's so funny.
Really?
Yeah.
Listen, you guys, I rewatched the Revenge of the Sith last night, and I might have to reevaluate my opinions of those 3 movies because I hadn't watched them since they came out because I hated them so much when they first came out. Mm-hmm. But rewatching it last night with kids,
oh yeah,
it was really fun to watch it.
Yeah,
and like we really had a good time watching that movie last night.
I love all Star Wars movies, so.
Although poor Natalie Portman has the worst dialogue of all time.
Oh my gosh, she just dies of a broken heart.
She sure does.
Your skin is soft. It's not like sand. Sand is rough and it gets everywhere, and your skin isn't like that.
It's so bad. The dialogue is so bad, especially in Attack of the Clones. So.
It's too bad they should have had Dave Wolverton write the dialogue because he's got some snappy lines.
Yeah.
Good point.
Oh, hot. That line really did jump out at me because like I kept thinking about it because like it should have been like hot, but hot,
hot instead of ow.
Yeah.
My hot.
And
ow or but hot. Well, I don't know. I could see myself. Hot.
I was pleased that someone said I had have a bad feeling about this.
Oh, one must.
Is it in every book too?
I don't know. I can't say for sure, but it's in every movie. And the good books have it. So.
And this
is that
one.
a thing? I don't know. I don't know that. I need to go back and watch.
Every Star
Someone
Wars
always
movie,
says that.
I have a bad feeling about this. Yep.
Leia says it in this one. In this book.
Han says it. C-3PO says it sometimes. And
Obi-Wan said it in Revenge of the Sith last night.
Oh yeah. He is good in that. He is Zaddy Obi-Wan in that one.
Yes, he's so hot, and I love him doing his very best Alec Guinness impression for all of those movies. It's lovely.
Yeah, I like it. That
his beard though, so hot.
Mm-hmm. That is
who? Ewan McGregor?
Yeah.
We're a beard family around here right now, so I approve of beards.
Yeah, why not?
Kevin's beard is so big. It's so big.
Is he just gonna let it grow forever?
Yeah, and he said he wanted to get a straightener. they make straight like flat iron combs for beards,
so he can have like a ZZ Top situation.
This,
hilarious.
Does it have any gray in it?
Oh,
Don't tell him we said that. He'll never hear this.
Okay, so Haley, do you want to talk about this nonprofit, and then we can say what we're doing?
Yeah, okay. The Women's Prison Book Project. I forget how I found out about this. It's an all-volunteer nonprofit that sends books and reading materials to incarcerated women and trans people all over the country. Yeah, so like women in prison apparently love science fiction and fantasy especially. So they know that, and they take donations, and then they collect them, and then they ship them to prisons all across the country, which is an awesome thing because, women of color especially are probably in prison when they shouldn't be a lot more times than other folks, and giving people something to do is priceless, I think, in prison. Like it's a bleak place, and I think this gives them a chance to escape their cells and have a little bit of fun for a little bit.
And I looked at the list, and some of the first there's things on there like journals and like writing things, but some of the first fiction that I saw on there was N.K. Jemison's Broken Earth trilogy and some Nnedi Okorafor novels. So that's pretty cool that it was stuff that's like right up our fandom alley. So
yeah, and then
it seems relevant in several aspects.
Oh, absolutely. But they also provide useful books like self-help books and addiction books. So I just think it's such a good idea. Like it's something that people would never even think of, but knowing how important books are to me in my life and my daily life, like I can see how it would be to other people as well.
So we're gonna do a giveaway to help raise money and books for them, and the number one prize is going to be a Hugo Girl logo T-shirt. We'll get you a shirt. You pick the size. We'll send you a Hugo Girl shirt. We'll ship it to you anywhere in the world, anywhere in the galaxy.
Ooh.
And we'll also do a few masks for other people too. Our Hugo Girl logo masks. So we'll put more details of that up on our Instagram once we figure them out. And the start and end dates and all that good stuff. I guess it'll start the day that this episode drops.
Yeah.
And then it'll end sometime, which we'll tell you in the Instagram post. And thanks, Haley, for finding out about this organization because it's really cool.
Yeah.
Anything else?
That is
what we're reading next time.
Oh, yeah. So coming up next month, we will be talking about Canticle for Leibowitz by Walter M. Miller, winner of the 1961 Hugo Award for Best Novel.
We're also going to be recording a mini-sode in the next couple weeks where we're going to listen to a more recent short work by one of the lady winners from the Hugo Awards this year. So stay tuned.
And it should be a recurring thing. So yeah.
Okay.
Yay.
Good job, everybody.
Yeah, this was fun.
It was fun.
Bye.
Okay, bye.
To be fair.
To be fair.
To be fair. To be fair. To be fair.